Alright, folks. I asked the people what they wanted, and they told me that they wanted a Pool 3 tier list. So I went through the painful process of uploading all this crap because somehow nobody had made a template for this on Tier Maker yet, which surprised me. But we're ready to go. The cards are alphabetical. It's sick. I'm just gonna do my best because this is very challenging, actually. A lot of these depend on what kind of player you are, what other Pool 3 polls you've gotten, but I will just do my best as I go. And also disclaimer that I'm pretty good at the game, but I'm not like some complete monster. So there's going to be some that better players than me will disagree with, and that's fine, whatever. Alright, so let's just get right cracking along with Adam Warlock as the start. I've seen people like claim that they get really good usage out of this, but I think this card is just garbage. You should almost never put this in your deck. Because I have seen people say they've had success with it, I'm not gonna give it the F treatment, but this feels like a D placement to me. If you pull this early in Pool 3, it's basically a dud, and I am sorry. Arrow, on the other hand, let me show off my sick variants as we go. I have two for Arrow. I got the Chibi first, but this one is it. Arrow is excellent, and the kind of card that I feel like people more and more are realizing how effective she is as time goes on in the game and the meta develops. I've seen her not only in like Death Wave decks, where I think she's like pretty much optimal for Death Wave, but also just a variety of decks where her kind of lockdown end of game effect can kind of seal some wins for you, and a lot of opponents aren't going to expect it, so she's a good cube gain card too, I think. Extremely solid pull. If you get this early, you can just kind of start throwing this into some decks and tinker with it, and you'll see some effectiveness with it, I think. Agatha is a really interesting one. Some players aren't really a fan of the playstyle. I'm not a fan of the fact that she steals all my boosters because I have, I'm trying to like level up my Ghost Rider and shit, and Agatha is the best deck for Ghost Rider, I think, right now, but she snatches all the boosters from him. Kind of fucked up, but Agatha is like surprisingly competitive, I think. The fact that she is drawn as an additional card in your starting hand is really strong. So you have a 4-card starting hand rather than 3. And she can do really strong things with Ghost Rider and Wave, like I said. But those are both Pool 3 cards that I would consider like extremely important to run the best Agatha lists. So that hurts. I mean, you'll have Lady Sif. She's a Pool 2 card, I'm pretty sure. But your Agatha decks just aren't going to be great until you have assembled some of those pieces. So I think like C makes sense. There are some players, my buddy Yelsu wants him so bad. But it's just not going to be great until you have a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to factor that in with how I do this. I'm like ranking these from the perspective of somebody who's pretty early into Pool 2, I think. So that's just the way of looking at it. Arnim Zola is a really interesting card that I think just got like way better. Assuming you've purchased Black Panther from the new season pass, I think that is an incredible combo with Arnim Zola, and you don't even need anything else really. Like it's cute. It's even more crazy with Wong, but I don't think it's necessary in order to just throw that combo into something. And you can also Arnim Zola with like Devil Dino, which is a Pool 2 card that everybody's gonna have. Actually, is Dino Pool 1? Might be. But yeah, I think Arnim Zola is actually an extremely good pull at this stage of the game, now that Black Panther is out. If you're you know, free to play and not willing to purchase Black Panther, then I would drop him a decent amount, probably to like C. Like he's still gonna be playable, but just like kind of clunky. But the redundancy that Black Panther provides, and just the fact that that's like a super good combo to make 2 16 power threats on turn 6, it's just really good. So I think Zola feels pretty good in A. Baron Mordo, on the other hand, is going to be our first F tier poll. You just have no reason to run this. This thing is terrible. You'll see I still have him at common because I've never put him into a deck. Beast. He's a quirky little card. I really like him in Cerebro too, but that's a deck that's going to require multiple pool 3 polls. You need Cerebro, you need Brood, you need Mystique. Beast has also been played in Bounce Bros, which is yet another deck where you need like Hood, you need Falcon, you even need like Torch. I think that's still ran in that deck. So he's not gonna see a whole lot of play for you if you get him early in pool 3, but he becomes usable eventually. So I think like a C or B. I'm leaning towards C because it's just not going to be helpful for you if you get him early in pool 3, I think. Black Bolt, sigh. I think he has to go F. Like, I'll order the tiers a little bit, but for the most part they won't be ordered. But like, I just want to emphasize that Black Bolt is better than Baron Mordo, I think. If you do pull Black Bolt early on and you think he's cool, and I have this sick variant for him that I really like, he's not completely atrocious. It's just not good, and no deck has ever seriously put him in, so it's pretty much F. There's just no like competitive reason to run him, but I do think he's better than Baron Mordo, so he's got that going for him, I guess. Black Cat is going to be totally useless unless you get Hela as well pretty early on, but there's just not much reason to even think about her beyond that. If you draw her on exactly turn 3, you can get a 3/6, which is above rate, but it's not even like blowing anybody's mind. So Hela or bust for that card, I'm afraid. Black Widow is a neat one. Hold on, let me show off my variant. Oh yeah, baby. She gets an okay amount of play in. Just a nice disruptive option that you might throw into decks with Green Goblin and Debris and stuff. But again, those are pool 3 cards. So you kind of want the redundancy of the disruptive effects. Like, you're not just going to throw Black Widow into something by herself. And she sees play pretty sparingly. I haven't really seen her played at all in weeks. Racking my brain. Yeah, she's not in much right now. So I think she feels like C, maybe even D. She's grown on me. There was a time when I thought she was just atrocious, but I don't think she's atrocious, but I don't think she's very good either right now. So we'll see. If you get her early in pool 3, you can like maybe throw her into stuff, but it's not gonna feel that great. Brood, on the other hand, is a pretty good pull. I think there's a pretty decent playable like hand buff list with Black Panther that Brood is an exceptional addition to, but the best place for him is going to be like Cerebro 2 and Patriot decks, stuff like that, which require a lot of other pool 3 pulls. But Brood's just like kind of solid. I don't know. He's a 3/6. He eats up a lot of board space, but he's just got like a lot of synergies and interesting little things going on for him. So I think B's pretty good. If you get him early, you can run him in some stuff. I have a friend who got him early and has seen some good play with Brood. Captain Marvel is another that I think feels like B. Just a solid card. You can like throw it in stuff. It's good in like storm decks and things like that pool 2 can assemble. So She's nothing like super special. She's very similar to Vision, but like she does the work for you at the cost of 1 power. It's not amazing. It's not bad. If you get her early, she's kind of usable, but it won't be too exciting. Cerebro's a pretty solid B, I think. If you don't know what he does, he has an extremely unique kind of deck building construction thing going on. Just to show an example of what one of his decks might look like. This is going to be pretty small on the screen probably, but Cerebro 2 I think is the best deck for him. You know, you're running your little 2-power 1-drops. Beast is really cool to like replay Iceman and Korg, and you got Mr. Sinister and Brood and Storm. Blue Marvel makes everything equalized, and then Cerebro buffs up your entire side. So it's a cool deck. It's pretty fun. It's pretty straightforward to play. It's susceptible to a lot of different locations, and stuff like Scorpion can really screw you up, but it's viable. And you can do other stuff too. Cerebro 3 is a deck. A lot of people like to mess around with even like Cerebro 5 and things like that. It's okay. You're gonna want some other pool 3 hits to really make it shine, but like I think it's decent enough, so B feels pretty good. Colleen Wing is pretty straightforward. Discard the lowest cost card in your hand. You really want this if you're gonna try and play like Apocalypse or, you know, other various stuff. She's like a solid B. 4 power for 2 is pretty efficient. Crossbones is completely irrelevant. No one has ever played this. Crystal is completely irrelevant. Nobody plays it. Deadpool is a tough one. He's got like an okay deck with Death and, you know, Killmonger and Carnage and all that stuff. I've always found it kind of clunky, and you're putting in a lot of work for nothing that's like really blowing my mind. There are decks right now that just play like 2-3 cards and assemble a massive board, whereas you got to put in so much work to make Deadpool anything. So I think he's kind of in C, and you want some pool 3 stuff to even make him truly shine. You want like Venom, you want Taskmaster, you want Death. So if you get him early in pool 3, it's not very good. Dagger, you get a lot of the pieces to the move archetype pretty early, and Dagger just got buffed and feels pretty good to me right now, so I actually think she goes in B. Why is this one transparent and the rest have not been? Huh. I don't know. I assembled this tier list and I don't even know what's going on, so that's fine. Yeah, Dagger's really cool. I'm a big fan. You know, you can obviously just play her with like Cloak, Iron Fist, Heimdall, Doctor Strange, and she will do some stuff. I've made some really big daggers. I like this card a lot. So B feels pretty good. Daredevil's okay. I like him better than these C tier cards. Obviously, you know, you just want to put him in a deck that revolves around specific turn 5 swings. So you want him with like Professor X and Hobgoblin. If you don't know what he does, you get to see what your opponent's doing on turn 5. It's really cool. But you're playing a 2/2 with no other effect. He's really good in decks where like the information you get allows you to snap, so he can kind of just like help your cube rate too in certain decks. So he's really solid. Nothing amazing. He's seen play and some stuff here and there. Death, I think, is a really good one to get early on because well, back in the beta, everybody had Wave because it was like the first season pass card, but new players are not gonna have Wave, so maybe she's more like B. Wave is what really makes this card work, because what you're going for is to destroy 2 things, and then you wave on turn 5 so that on turn 6 your Death costs 2, and then you can play a 4 mana card next to it, whereas your opponent can only play the 4 mana card. And that swing tends to be really effective, but without Wave you have to destroy like a lot of stuff to make her cost efficient. So probably just B, unfortunately. But if you have pulled, all you really need is Wave as well, and then she jumps up to A. I'm pretty sure that's it. pool 3. Debris, just really, really solid. I actually think I'd put her in A. You can kind of just throw her in a lot of stuff, and she's just annoying. She's good in, like, with Khazar. If you've pulled Patriot, she's good. If you've pulled Green Goblin, you have a pretty effective, like, disruption duo that you can use to fill up your 3 slot. Debris is one of my most played cards. I like her a lot, and I think that you don't have to like build around this too specifically, which makes her very versatile, so I think A tier makes sense for her. Destroyer is probably B or A. He doesn't require a whole lot of pool 3 stuff. You kind of just play him with like Warpath and Goblins and Professor X, Armor, Cosmo. So probably A actually, because you can assemble his deck pretty easily if you pull him. Just a strong card, like definitely. I don't think there's much debate about that. Dr. Octopus is pretty niche. I've had some games where he's just crazy, but also games where you just do not want to play him. He doesn't see that much play. I'd consider him better than Black Cat and Adam Warlock, so just C for him, I think. Dracula's pretty cool. You need quite a few pool 3 cards to play like the best Apocalypse list, and even then, it's not super good right now. You can play him in like a Storm, Infinite type of goofy shell, but that's not going to be super great. So I think he's a C. He used to be better, but the discard archetype got nerfed a lot, so it's just kind of mid right now. Definitely not one of the worst polls, but it won't be super great. Drax is like, people hate on it. It's very boring, that's for sure, but I don't think he's that bad. There are decks that play like Sera turn 5 to drop double 4-drop on 6, and Drax is one of the best ones for that actually. And he can be decent after Storm, but also like, why not just play Jessica? So he's probably like a D, but I don't think he's an F. I think a lot of people would snap put him in F. He doesn't really like provide anything to you if you get him early in pool 3. He doesn't open up anything that you already have, like chunky 4-drops if that's what you're looking for. So he's a pretty disappointing pull for sure, but he's better than the F tier cards. Dr. Doom is the first S. He's just so good. And you have Storm already in pool 2, and that synergy is exceptional. Just the ability to put power in all 3 locations on turn 6 is so often fantastic. I've actually kind of brainstormed, like, should they put Dr. Doom in pool 2, because he would be so good just for all players, I think, to have. And he's like very straightforward too. There's nothing. A lot of the pool 3 cards, you know, are more about like more complex effects and things like that. But there's nothing complex about this. He just makes some 5-power things. You know what I mean? So, but really good though. You want to get him as soon as possible. I think you'll play him in a decent chunk of decks. Electro feels like a pretty typical like C or B pull. He's in one of the best decks in the game right now, so I think that moves him up to B. But that deck requires a decent chunk of pool 3 cards. This is the deck I'm talking about. You really want Thor, you really want Wong, you really want Zola and Doom. So it requires a lot, but it's really good when you get there. If you pull Electro early in pool 3 though, it's gonna be a while before you can do much with him, because again, you really need like Zola and stuff to make the +1 energy curve that he gives you worth anything. Falcon, I think, should go in the same tier as Beast, like right around him. They all pretty much go into the same decks and do the same kind of things. I do like this variant. You just play him with like Collector or, you know, stuff like Hood, so you can get extra 6-power demons and things like that. He's alright. Nothing amazing. Gambit, probably another like C tier card. You can throw him and stuff. He's alright. Even in the discard archetypes, people don't even really necessarily run him, because it's just an inconsistent effect. You can do silly Wong Bomb stuff, where you have Wong and Mystique, and you try to destroy their entire board. That's not a competitive deck, but it is very silly. So he might even be D, but he's probably C. C is fine. He's better than these 3 cards. Ghost Rider is kind of sad. He used to be absolutely nutty. His biggest problem now is that Lady Sif is 3 mana, so that their combo is 7, which just doesn't work. He's really good in Agatha and nothing else, so he goes like right next to Agatha. Makes sense. Giganto's pretty cool, but you only really play him in decks that are cheating him out somehow, like Hela. So he's better than these Ds, but you're not going to really put him in anything otherwise. If you get him early in Pool 3, I can't think of any deck that wants to main deck this, really, at that point. So he's just C. Like, he's a minor upgrade over Hulk or something in Hela eventually, and that's about it right now. Goose is a weird one. Probably B, I think. Good in Spectrum decks. Like, you can throw it in your Spectrum deck right away if you pull this. Playable in Cerebro too, and it's seen a little bit of play in kind of wonky disruptive decks otherwise. You could play it like today with the Shuri's Lab to try and disrupt Black Panther plays on that location and stuff like that, but it's kind of a techie tech W option that, I don't know, doesn't see a ton of play, but it's alright. Green Goblin is an easy S, one of the best cards in the game. You can throw this into a ton of stuff. It has seen a ton of play in all kinds of decks. It's so good at disrupting all kinds of nonsense. Not much to talk about. If you need me to explain why this card is great, hit me up, and I will show you just how nasty it can be. Hazmat, meh. Maybe even D. I've seen some, I've lost to this card before where they did some funky like Hazmat Carnage stuff, but I just don't, I've seen it so rarely, and when I tried that deck it didn't feel very good, and I don't know. You can also do a silly Wong combo with this card to make everybody's power like negative 10,000 or whatever, but that obviously that's just for the memes. This card's not very useful for anything, so I'm putting her in D. Hela's a funny one because her deck's not that good. It's okay. You can climb with it. You can have fun with it. You do want a couple other pieces when you pull her. Like, you want Invisible Woman, who's coming up, ideally. So probably like C. But maybe B, because she makes her own archetype eventually, and it's, like, playable, so B makes sense, I think. Hellcow probably deserves to be right around where Dracula is. It's very niche. You'll run it in Apocalypse, but Apocalypse is only okay, and you need other pieces for that to be good, so that's probably where Hellcow deserves to be. This card used to be, like, an S-tier type pull, because it was 2 mana. They doubled the mana on this thing. That's wild. But yeah, not that good anymore. The Hood, I think, should be an A. Very, very strong card that sees play in like a pretty interesting variety of decks. Where is the Hood? Huh. Is it in the T's? Yeah. -2 power, so obviously you want to try and do something about that. Do like Falcon, or you can do Carnage, or you can do Killmonger, and then you get a 1/6, which is like really above power, and that downside of playing a -2 initially is often worth it. There's a lot of decks that have played the Hood. Human Torch is neat. I think it is worse than Dagger, but it's still good enough that you play it in like a full Pool 3 move deck, so I think I'll put it in B. And Move is a deck where you have a lot of pieces ready to go in Pool 2, so as soon as you get to Pool 3, you can definitely tinker with this if you get it early. Cool card for sure. It's played in Bounce Bros too, which is not a dedicated move deck. It like just plays Iron Fist. And then you bounce the torch and the Iron Fist to get the double again for like a 1/8, which is really cool. But it's a very skill testing deck. It's kind of weird. He might be better than Dagger. They're very close. Obviously, they have similar functions. Invisible Woman is pretty nice for like some combos with like Hela or Ultron stuff. So I think B kind of makes sense. You can also do funky stuff where you throw your opponents off and like hide a Shang-Chi behind her. I've seen that been done. So yeah, she enables some stuff. She's like Enchantress protection for your Patriot or things in some decks. Pretty solid. Jane Foster is very, very reliant on you also having regular Thor. So that's kind of... And other than that, she's like a 5/8. Kind of tough call. She's like B or even A if you have Thor, but otherwise just kind of middle of the road. C or B. I'm gonna go with C. If you don't know what she does, she just draws all of the 0 costs in your deck. Sometimes that will include Wasp. Sometimes it's only looking for Thor's Mjolnir. But when you pull her or early in pool 3, it's probably not going to do anything for you at first. Juggernaut, I forgot, was pool 3. He's alright. But I feel like C. Like, he's not opening very many doors for you. It's like fringe playable in some stuff. He has some silly variants. He's alright. C feels about right. Kingpin, unfortunately, I think goes in D. Which is sad, because this card's so cool. But he just does not get there. It's just too telegraphed, too much work, too easy to play around. He might even be F, but yeah, D feels right. Leader, I am not a fan of at all. I played it quite a bit in Deathwave way back in the day, but it's just... You'll get screwed over by it too many times. There's just too many shenanigans that can happen, but at the same time, some players have success with them. I think C feels about right. He's just kind of quirky and weird. Too inconsistent and unreliable. And bots will read your play and like do everything in their power to make him not effective, which also hurts. Lockjaw is a really good one. I'd probably say like B. Maybe A. We could go with A, actually. He enables like a very playable archetype. He definitely gets better when you have Thor. But even without Thor, if you get this early in pool 3, which I did, you can make some interesting decks. He's probably B. I was looking at these other A cards. This is a tier above Lockjaw, but Lockjaw is a solid one for sure. Magic she got a huge nerf. She's played in almost nothing right now. In fact, I would put her in C. She's better than these D cards. There's still like control decks that run her where it just gives you more time to try and line up your Shang-Chi's and Enchantress and stuff. So she's not horrible, but she used to be an S tier card. No longer. Magneto's like pretty solid, a little bit overrated, I think. Like, how often is he better than Hulk? I think sometimes. There are also times he's just worse than Hulk, which is kind of whack. But I think B is probably the place. He's like a skill testing card too. Like you'll see the lines the more you play with him. He's definitely a pool 3 pull where if you get him and you like him, you can put him to use right away, which I think is important. So that's why he seems like a B tier card to me. Maximus, you really want Sera to use him, but once you have him, he's really good. I'd put him probably in C though, just because that's really the only place he sees any play, which is in like Sera pop-off decks. And even then, You can run Swordmaster and you're only getting 1 less power. It's not that significant. So Maximus isn't really that big of a deal. Mojo, I would consider one of the best Pool 3 polls. I think A makes more sense than S, but you can run this in a lot of stuff, and he's just so consistently, like, obnoxious. It makes it hard on your opponent, because they really want to play around this. You can put him in, like, you know, Spectrum, or I've played him in goofy Onslaught decks before and things like that. He just makes stuff happen. Just a really, really good card. Moon Knight, unfortunate. He's just not... He belongs, like, right around with Gambit and these other discard cards. Like, it's just not really doing anything that special. Even the Apocalypse decks aren't really running him. It's kind of a shame. Mr. Negative used to be the cream of the crop. I do not see him. But either way, he's just not very good anymore. I've seen some lists popping up where you run Carnage to try and eat your -1 Mr. Negative, but that's pretty wonky. And you don't have magic anymore for the deck either. I think he's better than the D tier cards, but if you pull him early, you're not... You can at least try to build a deck with him, but it's probably not going to be very effective. Mysterio, one of the best cards. Feels like a solid A. You can just play him and stuff. Really good with Angela, really good with Bishop. You can eat the clones with Carnage. You just play the mind games. Great card. Mystique has some of the best variants in the game. A little, like, overhyped, I think, but definitely strong. Like, she might be like a top of B tier type of card, but she's probably A. Just because she enables some really potent synergies, obviously, you know. I haven't seen her played that much lately, but I still feel like this effect is so significant that it probably warrants A right now. Omega Red, unfortunate. The magic nerf hurt him. I had a period where I was playing a really cool magic Onslaught Iron Man Omega Red deck. Not so pretty anymore. It's probably D. You're not going to get much use out of this card unless there's, like, Elysium Hot Location or something that really pushes his potential. Patriot is going up to S. Like, this is just a crazy card. You really don't even need to build your deck that specifically around this. You can just run them with Squirrels and Debris and Doctor Doom, and that's multiple Pool 3 cards I just named, but even if you don't have those, you still have your Misty Knight, Shocker, Squirrel Girl stuff. He's one of the best cards and enables some of the best decks in the game. Truly, like, you want to get him as soon as possible, I would say. Polaris, I'm putting her in A, actually. She is just good. You can put her in a lot of different stuff. You're getting a good rate of power for your mana. Her effect is very disruptive. It's actually weird that her power is given to her as if her effect is a downside, but it's, like, not even a downside. So she is particularly powerful and versatile. You can do shit like snatch away a Bucky before they eat it and stuff like that, or fill up a lane that they had one slot open. Just really powerful card. A feels good for her. Psylocke, why do I have 2 variants for her? I've tried to make her work a lot and she just doesn't quite get there. She's not the worst, but it's not great. She doesn't enable that much. It's just kind of clunky. So not as bad as these D cards, I think, but close to being in D. Quake is an F. What is this card? What are you doing with this? What a waste of time. Quinjet is really cool. I feel like B feels good. You can do, like, you run it in Spectrum sometimes just because it's 1 mana and says ongoing. But it's also really solid in some Pool 3 Devil Dino decks. You can just have some really fun pop-offs with this. I really, really love anytime I get to play this card. And it's not bad. So B feels pretty solid. You can make use of this right away too if you get this like your first Pool 3 or something. Red Skull is you need quite a bit of other stuff to make him really shine. You want Zero, you want Venom, you want like Typhoid Mary as well. But once he gets there, he's very solid. Even without Zero, like, I feel like this card's kind of underrated. I'm gonna go with B, actually. I could see C tier. But we know that the Zero deck is actually really good. You need quite a few pieces to get there, but I don't know. Maybe I should be doing this tier list from the perspective of a full collection. I don't know, but it feels like doing it this way is more helpful to the average viewer, so I guess that's what I'm going for. Rescue, very solid. Nothing crazy, just another like chunky 4-drop. There's a decent number of those. She's like B. You can run her if you get her. Kind of boring though, you know. Rock Slide, sad, but he's not very good. He's just too slow for the power that you're getting. If I'm running a 4/6, like White Queen is better even, I think. He has some sick variants though. I don't own them, but Rogue, I mean, like, she saw quite a bit of play back during when Sera Negative was the top deck, but has not seen a whole lot of play since. You can just put her in stuff and she'll be annoying sometimes, so I guess B makes sense. Just solid. Ronan is a yikes. He was really cool for a moment. He was a 5/0 that got +3 for each in your opponent's hand, which had a pretty nice ceiling. But now he's just literally reverse Dino, and I just have no clue. So D tier, not horrendous like these Fs, but not very good. Sera is an easy S. You get her, you just put in stuff that costs 2 and 3, and you'll have a really good deck. Obviously, just one of the best cards in the game, has been since the beginning. She has yet to be nerfed. Maybe someday. I don't know. We'll see. Spider-Man, I love this card, but he doesn't see too much play. You need a pretty specific deck that has multiple disruptive cards. You really want to breed Green Goblin with him. You really want Doctor Doom. When you get him, he's good in that deck. Until then, you're not going to play him much, but I think B makes sense because you can very viably play him. I played this deck all the way to Infinite exclusively in October. Had a blast doing it. Super strong. So he feels solid in B. Taskmaster is another B, kind of in the same vein as like Red Skull because they go together. Taskmaster just sees play and stuff here and there. You can play him with even Dino, so if you get him early, it's kind of like copying a Dino without playing Moon Girl. Pretty solid card. Thor is really good. I'm going to put him in A. Just like a very strong proactive 3-drop that creates these mind game situations with your opponent. They have to respect the Mjolnir. And especially if you also get Wong or, you know, you have Odin, you can do really crazy stuff with the Mjolnir. Jane Foster helps him, but he doesn't need Jane Foster. So I think he's just a really good standalone card to get early on. Typhoid Mary is worse than Red Skull, but goes in the same deck as him, so I think it's like a solid B. Like these three all go together with Zero, Enchantress, and Task. You know, it's a deck that eats big stuff with Venom. I'll do Venom even though he's out of order. He just goes right with these. They're all very, very solid together. Pretty good deck. Pretty straightforward. Ultron. If you get him early in Pool 3, there's just no use for him at all. But once you have all the pieces he needs, like Patriot and Mystique, in order to buff the 1-power drones, he gets really good. So I think B is probably the spot for him. In fact, some would argue that his deck is the best deck in the game. I don't know if it's quite up there, but it's definitely good, and he's a key component. So maybe even A makes sense for him. But since he's so, like, literally unplayable until you have Patriot and company, I think that B makes sense. Viper's just not good. You can shift over a Hood or a Rock or something, but it's just not consistent. Wasp is fine, just like C. You'll probably play her with like Lockjaw and, you know, obviously Jane Foster. Patriot decks can throw her in, of course, but even then, the best Patriot decks I don't think are running it, so it's meh. Wave is probably like a B because it enables pretty specific things like the Death Wave deck. I don't think she's as crazy as a lot of people seemed to think back during the beta, but just solid. Wong is either A or S. Probably S, because he's just so uniquely important to the kinds of decks that are running him right now, and there are some really good decks running him right now, especially with Black Panther that just came out, so I think he's an S tier pool. Yellow Jacket is honestly F. I've never once seen any realistic reason to run this. Cerebro 2, I guess, but I've played a lot of that deck and I have never wanted this. Zero goes with his buddies. Actually, Zero might be A because of just how nicely just B. He rounds out this whole core of cards that kind of went in the same chunk. Red Skull and Typhoid and Venom. Okay, that took over 40 minutes. But I feel solidly about this. It might not be completely perfect, and on another day I might shift a card or two, but overall I hope that this was helpful. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Peace out.